It seems like every time you turn around, there's some crazy new advancement in AI.
Yeah, seriously.
And right now, everyone's talking about Gemini 2.5 Pro.
It's the hot topic for sure.
I gotta say, the buzz around this one feels, I don't know, different.
Like something big?
Yeah, exactly. So we figured it's time for a deep dive.
Definitely. Let's cut through all the hype.
See what really sets this new version apart, you know?
Absolutely.
And most importantly, we want to figure out how it could actually impact you.
That's the key question.
So for this deep dive, we didn't just rely on one source.
Oh no, we went broad.
We wanted the full picture.
Multiple perspectives.
Exactly, so we pulled insights from all over the place.
Think of it as your fast track to understanding this tech.
Exactly, we're gonna break it down so you don't have to wade through all the noise.
That's right.
So we dove into those YouTube transcripts from the nerdy novelist who put it through its paces for creative writing.
They really gave it a workout.
Yeah, then we have Rob, the AI guy, who explored what it can do for building and coding.
Practical applications.
Totally. And then there's AI learning communities who were all over this unique video analysis feature.
That one's a potential game changer, especially for people creating video courses.
For real. And we even looked at a summary article to tie it all together.
Nice. So we've got all our bases covered.
Our mission today is super simple. We're going to extract the most valuable insights into what Gemini 2.5 Pro can really do.
No fluff, just the good stuff.
Right. And we're going to focus on three main areas: creative writing, general building, and coding, and that innovative video analysis feature for educators.
Sounds like a plan.
So by the end of this, you'll have the essential understanding without getting totally overwhelmed.
Awesome. I'm ready to dive in.
All right, so let's get this show on the road.
Let's do it.
Let's start by unpacking how it handles creative writing, thanks to the detailed breakdown from the nerdy novelist.
They really went all out.
Seriously, what struck me was just how systematic their approach was.
Yeah, it wasn't just messing around.
They had a very specific way of testing it.
It was almost scientific.
It was. They actually used a set of criteria, which they called a rubric,
Swear.
to really assess how Gemini 2.5 Pro stacked up against other AI models.
Specifically for creative tasks.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
all about the right tool for the job.
And one of the first things that jumped out from the reviewers' comments was the whole context window thing.
Yes, that's crucial.
It's a big deal. They mentioned it's just got this massive 1 million token context window.
That's a lot.
Right. And a 66,000 word output limit.
Wow.
You might hear about other models with, even bigger numbers.
Sure, they like to brag.
But here's the thing. The reviewers' experience was that the actual usable output,
The stuff you can actually work with.
yes, felt very similar to their previous go-to, which was Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
Interesting. So it's not just about theoretical limits.
No, it's about what you can actually do with it in practice.
Makes sense.
So for someone like you who might be using this to write a novel or screenplay, it suggests that Gemini 2.5 Pro can handle those longer projects without losing the thread.
You can keep track of everything,
And it can keep all those instructions you gave it and the previous output in its memory.
like it's paying attention to the whole conversation.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty impressive.
It's like having an AI with a really good memory.
Now, this next area that the nerdy novelist explored was, well, let's just say it was a little outside the mainstream.
Oh, color me intrigued.
They used Google's AI Studio with the safety settings turned off.
Interesting.
And they were looking at whether Gemini 2.5 Pro could generate, let's call it, not safe for work content.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Which, by the way, was different from what they could get out of Gemini Advanced and Open Router.
Where those limitations were still in place.
Exactly. But here's the important caveat.
The catch.
The reviewer also said that if that type of content is your main focus as a writer,
Like, if that's your niche,
then dedicated tools like Pseudo Writes Muse are still going to be better.
they're more specialized, right?
Exactly. They'll give you higher quality and a more direct approach, let's say.
So it's about using the right tool for the job.
Absolutely. No one tool is going to be the best at everything.
It's all about finding the one that fits your specific needs.
Okay, moving on to something a bit more universally applicable.
Something we can all relate to.
Yeah, brainstorming.
I love a good brainstorming session.
The reviewer challenged Gemini 2.5 Pro to come up with 20 log lines.
Like those one-sentence story summaries you see on movie posters.
Yeah, exactly. But specifically in the style of Blake Snyder.
The epic fantasy author.
You know him.
Oh yeah, big fan.
And the results were pretty impressive.
How so?
Out of those 20, 10 of them were considered pretty decent.
Not bad at all.
That actually puts it on par with Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
And ahead of some other models they tested.
Right. There was one example they highlighted that I thought was particularly interesting.
Let's hear it.
It was: a cowardly farmhand, mistaken for a prophesied hero, must lead a quest to defeat a tyrannical sorcerer, only to discover the ancient text was mistranslated and his lack of chosenness is the only thing that can save the world.
Wow, that's actually pretty good.
Right. And the reviewer even pointed out that Gemini had some interesting phrasing choices.
So it's not just spitting out generic stuff.
No, it's got a bit of style.
Which is what you want for brainstorming.
For sure, you want those sparks of creativity.
So for writers out there, this suggests Gemini 2.5 Pro could be a valuable brainstorming partner.
Absolutely. It can help you generate a bunch of different starting points that you can actually use.
And that could save a ton of time in those early stages.
Totally. No more staring at a blank page for hours.
Now that's a win.
Okay, next up, they moved on to outlining.
Ah, yes, the backbone of any good story.
And this is where Gemini 2.5 Pro seemed to really shine.
It's a natural organizer.
It generated a full 42-chapter outline.
Hold on, 42 chapters.
All in one go, and with a good level of detail in each chapter description.
That's insane. It's like having an AI co-writer.
I know, right? And the reviewer pointed out that this kind of comprehensive, single-prompt outlining,
Where you just give it one instruction and it runs with it.
is becoming more common with these newer, more powerful AI models.
They're getting smarter and more capable all the time.
Now, there were a few drawbacks the reviewer mentioned.
There always are, right? Nothing's perfect.
It seemed to lean towards some, predictable plot points.
Like the classic hero's journey kind of stuff.
Yeah, and some pretty generic names for characters, like Lara and Alara.
Those do sound a bit cliche.
The midpoint of the outline was also seen as a bit weaker.
Maybe it ran out of steam.
And the level of detail in those chapter descriptions seemed to drop off towards the end.
So it started strong but kind of faded out?
Which was different from how Claude 3.7 Sonnet performed.
Huh. Interesting comparison.
But it wasn't all criticism.
Thankfully.
The reviewer actually praised one chapter in particular.
Which one?
It was called The Drop. They said it was really well described.
So it had its moments of brilliance.
Definitely. And in the end, out of those 42 chapters, they marked 33 of them as pretty good.
That's a pretty high success rate.
They ultimately considered Gemini 2.5 Pro the best they'd tested for outlining.
Even with those drawbacks.
Yeah, it just barely edged out their previous favorite, Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
So it's a close call, but it sounds like Gemini 2.5 Pro might be the new outlining champ.
It might just be if you're struggling with structuring a longer piece of writing, this could be a huge help.
It could give you that solid foundation to build on.
And save you a ton of time and effort in the process.
That's always a good thing.
All right, moving on to the Beats Pro test.
Beats, what are those?
In this context, beats are like key moments or turning points in a story.
The things that keep the reader hooked.
Exactly. And Gemini 2.5 Pro came up with 16 decent beats.
That's a decent number.
Which was slightly less than Claude 3.7 Sonnet's 18.
So not quite as many, but still pretty good.
Yeah, but the reviewer did note one instance where a beat felt a bit too similar to a previous one.
Like it was repeating itself.
Which might indicate a weakness in avoiding repetition, at least when it comes to these structural elements.
So they might need a little human intervention.
To make sure those beats are distinct and impactful.
Yeah, you don't want to bore the reader with predictable turns.
All right, let's move on to actually writing prose.
The meat and potatoes of writing.
The reviewer used what they called prose prompts.
Catchy name.
It was a series of different prompts designed to test how well Gemini 2.5 Pro could generate different types of prose.
Like different writing styles.
Yeah, they had a basic prompt, a more complex novel crafter prompt, and one specifically for dialogue.
Makes sense. Gotta cover all the bases.
And across all those prompts, most of the text it generated was labeled as usable.
So not perfect, but not bad either.
The reviewer even highlighted those sections in green.
Like a green light for good writing.
But as you might expect, there were some familiar AI quirks that popped up.
The things that make AI writing, well, AI writing.
Yeah, it tended to overuse adjectives.
Like every noun had 3 adjectives attached to it.
Pretty much, and there was a bit too much drama.
AI loves a good melodrama.
And it had a tendency to use what the reviewer called superfluous clauses.
Extra phrases that don't really add anything meaningful.
Exactly. So for you as a writer, this means that even though the AI can generate a ton of text,
We'll probably need to do some editing.
to cut out the fluff and make it more concise.
Basically, polish it up and make it shine.
Exactly. Now, when they compared the total word count and the usable word count with Claude 3.7 Sonnet and Pseudo-Write's Muse,
The other contenders in this AI writing showdown,
it became pretty clear that Muse is still the top dog.
in terms of quality and ready-to-use prose,
However, Gemini 2.5 Pro actually did pretty well on that more complex novel crafter prompt.
so it can handle the tough stuff.
It had a comparable percentage of usable text to Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
Even though it generated fewer words overall.
Right, and what's really interesting is that when it came to
The
dialogue,
back and forth between characters.
Gemini 2.5 Pro actually produced more decent words than Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
So it's got a knack for dialogue.
It seems that way, which could be a real advantage for writers who are focused on character interactions.
Definitely. It could help them bring their characters to life.
All right, let's move on to the editing test.
So now we're putting on our editor hats.
The reviewer gave Gemini 2.5 Pro a piece of text and asked it to edit it.
Let's see how good its grammar skills are.
And it actually provided two different versions.
Interesting. So it gave some options.
Yeah, it was kind of funny is that the epic fantasy version it produced was actually considered worse than the original.
Ouch. So it missed the mark on that one.
Whereas the grittier version was actually an improvement.
So it can edit, but it's not always consistent.
The reviewer pointed out that editing is still a pretty big challenge for AI.
It's a very human skill.
It requires a lot of subjective judgment.
You need to understand things like voice and tone and the overall impact the writing is supposed to have.
Right, but even with that being said, Gemini 2.5 Pro's performance in this area was pretty comparable to Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
So it's holding its own against the competition.
And it was even close to Pseudo-Write's Muse.
Not too shabby.
So it's not quite ready to replace a human editor.
Not yet, but maybe someday.
Maybe someday, but it can definitely offer some helpful suggestions.
It's like having an AI assistant editor.
Okay, last but not least, they looked at how Gemini 2.5 Pro handled marketing-focused prompts,
So now we're getting into the business side of things.
like writing ad headlines,
Catchy slogans,
email newsletters,
keeping your audience engaged,
and SEO articles.
the bread and butter of content marketing.
And this is where Google's expertise really seemed to come through.
Makes sense, they're the kings of search.
Gemini 2.5 Pro was amazing at generating ad headlines.
How many did it come up with?
It generated 7 good ones,
That's a pretty good haul.
which was actually better than Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
So it's got a way with words.
Now, the email newsletter it produced was a little long.
Too much text.
Yeah, and maybe not the best formatting for easy reading.
Not very scannable.
But it still had a similar number of usable words compared to Claude 3.7's Sonnet and even GPT 4.5 Preview.
So the content was good, just needed some tweaking.
But the real standout was the SEO article Super Prompt.
This is where it really went all out.
It generated this massive article,
How massive are we talking?
660 words out of the 4,000 it was asked for.
That's a lot of words.
And it was well structured, easy to scan, and it even included cited sources.
Wow, so it did his research.
I think Google's massive knowledge base and their understanding of online content played a big role there.
It's got access to all the information.
For the same prompt, Claude 3.7 Sonnet couldn't even hit 2,000 words.
So Gemini 2.5 Pro blew it out of the water.
So if you're doing any kind of content creation for the web, this suggests Gemini 2.5 Pro could be a really powerful tool.
Especially for generating that long-form SEO-friendly content,
With all the proper attribution.
which is important for credibility.
So to wrap up our creative writing deep dive,
Let's summarize what we learned.
the reviewer gave Gemini 2.5 Pro a very high overall score.
It performed well across the board.
It was actually very close to Claude 3.7 Sonnet,
Neck and neck.
with Sonnet still having a slight edge, at least according to the reviewer's personal preferences.
Everyone have their favorites.
But the affordability of Gemini 2.5 Pro is a big factor to consider.
Especially for budget-conscious writers.
And it's worth remembering that if you go with the free version, the data you put in can be used for training purposes.
So there's a bit of a trade-off.
Something to keep in mind depending on your privacy concerns.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground with creative writing.
Let's shift gears now and explore what Gemini 2.5 Pro can do for building and coding.
Sounds good. Let's get technical.
Rob, the AI guy, shared some really cool insights in this area, especially about a brand new feature called Canvas.
Canvas. What's that all about?
This is something that could seriously change how people use the AI for these kinds of tasks.
It sounds like a game changer.
From what Rob, the AI guy, showed, Canvas basically lets you create and edit documents and code right there within the platform.
Hold on, so you don't have to switch back and forth between different applications?
Nope, it's all integrated.
That's huge, especially for developers.
It's a huge time saver. You can get so much more done when everything's in one place.
Streamlines a whole workflow.
Exactly. And Rob, the AI guy, gave this awesome real-world example.
Let's hear it.
He used it to generate the code for a landing page.
Nice. Practical application.
And you could see the code, see a live preview of what it looked like, and even make edits to the code all within Gemini.
Wow, that's impressive.
And it's not just for code. Canvas also works with regular documents, graphs, and charts.
So it's versatile.
Super versatile. He also pointed out some other handy features.
Like what?
You can see a console log for your code.
Helpful for debugging?
You can refresh the output.
To see your changes?
And you can even share your canvas with others.
So it's great for collaboration.
It's like this really interactive and collaborative workspace.
Sounds like a developer's dream.
Then he showed how you can use it for data visualization.
Now we're talking.
He asked Gemini to create a visual graph of world population with each country color-coded.
Okay, that's a lot of data.
And Gemini actually generated a Python script for that.
Nice, so you can actually use it to create the visualization.
You can even export that script to Google Colab,
Which is a platform for running Python code.
to create an interactive visualization using Python and a library called Plotly.
So you can really bring that data to life.
This is so powerful for taking raw data and turning it into something that people can actually understand.
Especially for presentations or reports.
Or even for teaching.
Yeah, it could make complex topics so much more engaging.
If you've ever struggled to make data understandable, this is a game changer.
It's like having an AI data analyst at your fingertips.
Then he explored using Canvas for writing blog posts.
So it can write too.
It can. He used the example of a post about YouTube algorithm changes in 2025.
Topical.
Very. And the blog post it generated was pretty impressive.
Was it good?
It sounded really natural, almost like a human wrote it.
That's the goal, right?
And it even seemed to incorporate keywords for SEO.
To help it rank higher in search results.
Exactly. And because it's all within Canvas, you can easily change the tone of the writing,
Make it more formal or more casual.
suggest specific edits, and even upload other documents or text for Gemini to work with.
So it's not just starting from scratch,
No, you can use it to refine and repurpose your existing content too.
which is a huge time saver.
But perhaps the coolest feature he demoed was the screenshot to code capability.
What? Screenshot to code.
You can literally take a screenshot of a website,
Any website.
even a competitor's website, and ask Gemini to generate the code for it.
That's great.
He showed how you could recreate a section of a website or even an email pop-up.
And it worked.
It did, and Gemini could even explain the code it had generated.
That's wild. It's like having an AI developer on call.
This is like next-level rapid prototyping. For real, it could save developers so much time.
All right, we've seen how Gemini 2.5 Pro can boost creative writing.
And help you build and code faster.
Now let's talk about what AI learning communities highlighted as a truly unique feature.
Especially for anyone creating video courses.
It's the ability to analyze videos.
Analyze videos. How does that work?
This is something I haven't really seen in other AI tools.
It's cutting edge.
They said this key video analysis feature is currently available through Google's AI Studio.
That's aistudio.google.com, right?
You got it. And remember that massive 1 million token context window we talked about?
Yeah, the one that's way bigger than Claude 3.7 sonnets.
It's super important for video analysis because you're dealing with so much information.
You have the visuals, the audio, any on-screen text.
It's a lot to process, and that larger memory allows it to handle all those details.
So it can really understand what's going on in the video.
The process itself is pretty simple.
Tell me more.
You just paste a YouTube video link directly into the prompt in AI Studio.
Easy.
And then Gemini becomes this multimodal tool.
Meaning it can understand different types of input.
It can understand the visuals, like if it's a pickleball video. It can recognize the players and the court.
Cool.
It can understand any text on the screen, and it can understand the entire transcript.
So it's not just reading, it's watching.
And the potential applications are just huge, especially for course creators.
Give me some examples.
Imagine being able to analyze your competitors' videos to see what they're doing well,
Without having to watch the whole thing.
or finding gaps in their content, or understanding their teaching style.
That would save so much time.
Tons of time. Or imagine searching through your own library of videos to find specific moments,
Like a demonstration of a technique.
or a diagram explaining a rule.
That would be so helpful for repurposing content.
This kind of precise video search could save hours of manual review.
It's like having an AI assistant that can watch videos for you.
They also talked about other potential uses, like generating outlines and summaries of videos,
That's super useful for organization.
and finding the most engaging segments for clips or promos,
Smart marketing tactic.
and even identifying parts of your own videos that might be confusing or inconsistent before you publish them.
That's great for quality control.
To illustrate this, they shared a really cool example.
I'm all ears.
They asked the AI to identify the teaching style and describe key visual aids, demonstrations, and visual flow of a pickleball instruction video.
So it was analyzing both what was being said and what was happening visually.
And it did an amazing job. It actually identified the teaching style, described the key visual elements, and even gave timestamps for specific demonstrations.
Wow, that's really impressive.
It was like it was watching and understanding the video just like a human would.
This could be a game changer for anyone who creates instructional content.
In another example, they asked it to find elements that show the proper grip for serving in that same video.
Okay, so now it's getting specific.
And what's interesting is that it focused on the visual demonstrations of the grip, not just where it was mentioned in the audio.
So it was really paying attention to the visuals.
And it even concluded that the video didn't actually provide detailed visuals of the grip.
Interesting. So it's not just blindly following instructions?
It's actually analyzing the content and drawing its own conclusions.
That's pretty advanced.
They also mentioned that the AI has the potential to do web searches.
So it can go beyond the video itself.
Although it wasn't enabled in their example, but imagine it connecting what's in the video with related information from across the internet.
That would be incredibly powerful.
The takeaway from AI learning communities was clear. This video analysis feature has the potential to level the playing field for anyone creating video content.
It could help smaller creators compete with larger ones.
By making it much easier and faster to analyze existing videos and get inspiration for new content.
It's a tool for efficiency and quality improvement.
So to sum up, Gemini 2.5 Pro is a big step forward in AI.
It's pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
We've seen its impressive capabilities in creative writing, general building, and coding with that cool Canvas feature.
And that mind-blowing video analysis capability.
Especially for educators.
And by looking at all these different sources, we've gotten a really well-rounded view of its potential.
It's clear that this technology could save people a ton of time.
And unleash a whole new level of creativity.
Whether you're a writer, a coder, an educator, or a content creator, there's something here for you.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on.
Hit me with it.
How could you use those unique video analysis capabilities or the rapid prototyping in Canvas to innovate in your own work or even your personal projects?
It's a great question. It's all about thinking outside the box.
Think beyond those surface-level features and consider the deeper, maybe even unexpected ways this technology could be applied.
The potential is limitless.
And if you want to dive deeper into this,
And see these features in action,
we highly recommend checking out those YouTube channels we mentioned.
The Nerdy Novelist, Rob the AI Guy, and AI Learning Communities.
This deep dive is just the starting point.
Go explore and see what you can discover.
Have fun with it.
That's what it's all about.
All right, that's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.
See you later.
Bye!